Hello and welcome, it's Bibi Cameron here, and this is the first of 3 videos in which I'm going to show you how I use Picture Perfect Stamp Set by Stampin' Up. This is a multi-step stamp set, so it has stamps of different layers of a single image, as you can see here and there, and you can overlay them to create unique compositions, adding different colors every time you stamp. I also have made these artistic cards using the hummingbird stamps in the set, and I'm going to show you how I achieve this look and feel in the third part of this video. So with this stamp set, you will be able to make easy and quick cards like this one, and you can also go a little bit further and make something like this card here. This is adding your personal touch to your projects. If you like watercoloring, this might be a project just for you. So let me start for the basics. I really think that I should share this with you because it's what I have found to make this easy and to achieve the best results. I'm going to start by stamping the hummingbird, and to do my best and try to explain how overlaying the stamp, I just went ahead and I stamped this image here on vellum. Then I stamped this one as well on vellum with that orange ink. And I also stamped this solid image here, which is like the feeling of the bird on Whisper White cardstock. So the first thing I noticed when I was overlaying the images here is that depending on the order I stamp them on paper, the inks are going to blend differently and the colors are going to be shown differently as well. So if you notice here, my image is no more blue or orange, it is more brown in some parts, and this bit here is still orange because underneath that image is a blank space. And to finish my hummingbird, I'm going to need to stamp this image to add definition. You will notice as well that by stamping this image on top, you have changed dramatically the color. So what happens if I start stamping in the complete opposite way? I start stamping the definition image and then I go and overlay the other stamps on top. Well, even using the same inks, you will find that your stamped image are going to look a little bit different. So you can see here the difference between one image and the other just by overlaying the stamped images in a different order. In this example, the color is looking pretty much different. It's a huge difference. It's not going to happen the same when you use cardstock, but it's important for you to know that this is happening in your project. So depending on the order you stamp those images, you are going to get different contrast and perhaps definition. I also noticed that when I was stamping or overlaying the stamps, I need to focus my attention in this area here, in the eye of the bird, and this bit here. So those are my focal points to be able to get this right. So that's theory, it might be confusing, but let's go with the practice. In practice, everything is easier. I found that it's easier to start stamping by this image here. In the stamp, this image has the number 4, but for me it's the number 1, okay? For me, Bibi Cameron is the number 1. And I'm going to stamp this image with dark inks. I'm going to stamp a couple of examples to show you the differences in color. So I'm going to use here Mossy Meadow, which is a dark green, and I'm going to use here Early Expresso. And for my third hummingbird, I'm going to use Pacific Point. These colors are not only dark, they are also strong colors. And I'm using them here because I don't want to lose the color once I stamp the other images on top. Now I'm going to grab neutral or bright ink colors to stamp the next image. In the stamp set, this image here is the number 3. For me, Bibi Cameron is the number 2. To stamp this image, you can choose any bright or neutral color randomly. I'm going to use Crushed Curry ink to stamp on top of the Mossy Meadow ink. And I'm going to use Pumpkin Pie to stamp on top of the Early Espresso ink. And actually, I'm going to use Tip Top Toupee to stamp on top of the Pacific Point ink. Remember those focal points I mentioned before, which are the eye, the start of the wing, and the hummingbird tail. Something I noticed is when I positioning the stamp in 45 degrees, from my desk or from the cardstock, I can see through the stamp the image I already stamped, but I focus a special attention in the hummingbird eye and also in the tail feathers. And by doing this, all the images get completely aligned. So I get the image like so. Then I'm going to the next image and I'm going to do exactly the same. Don't worry if you don't get this right the first time, okay? Everything in life takes a little bit of practice. And thanks God, stamping is quite easy. So don't worry about that. Just try, give it a try and try again, okay? I'm sure that the third time you do this, you will be okay. So I finished my 3 images here, and I'm going to stamp now this solid image, which in the stamp set is the number 1, but for me, BB Cameron, is the number 3. And to do this, I'm going to use a light ink. So I'm going to use here Cucumber Crush to stamp this one. I'm going to use Bermuda Bay to stamp on top of the other one, and to stamp this one, I'm going to use Brushing Bright, a pink color. Cucumber Crush and Bermuda Bay are not light inks. They are quite strong, but you can make lighter any ink by applying the 2nd generation of the 3rd generation of the ink on top of the images. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stamp with the 1st generation of ink of Brushing Bright, because this is a very, very light ink, and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm facing the stamp, but the stamp is 45 degrees from that table. You see that? And I'm going to align the feathers in the tail of the bird, the hummingbird. And once I get those feathers aligned, I go to the wing. And once I have the wing aligned, I go to the head of the bird. I pay special attention to the eye of the hummingbird, because this is a clear stamp, so I can see the eye perfectly aligned. And it's done. So I'm going to go ahead with the next image, and to stamp that, I'm going to use Bermuda Bay ink, but I'm going to discharge the 1st generation of the ink on a piece of paper, like so. Then I go ahead and I stamp on the other images. So I hope that you can see what I'm doing here. I'm holding that clear block in 45 degrees in front of that cardstock, so I can see through the stamp where I'm stamping, and that makes the things easier. So now I'm going to stamp the other image, and as Cucumber Crush is also a very intense color, I'm going to stamp the image first on a piece of paper, and then I'm going to stamp it on top of the other 2 images, like I did before. I didn't notice I wasn't filming, I'm so sorry, and I use this little stamp here in the set, this one here, to stamp what I call the neck of the hummingbird using very bright ink colors. I used Melon Bamboo, Pumpkin Pie, and Watermelon Wonder, and I'm also using a white ball pen to add a little bit something to the hummingbird eye. And as I don't like wasting or promote wasting, I have here a little idea to use the samples or the samples of image using different color combinations. So don't throw away your work. You just can put it in a nice stack and make something like this. And as an additional information, I'm going to show you how I made these stacks very quickly. I'm going to start for the fuzzy cutting. This might seem a little bit complex, but it's not, and it's also quick. What you have to do is keep the scissors straight. You open and close the scissors as you go, and you move with your other hand the image to guide the paper through the scissors blades. So if you see, my scissors are always open and closing, but they are always straight. and it's my other hand which is moving the image to be able to cut that in a correct way, like so. I also like to leave a white edge all over the image, so it looks like if I use a die to cut it. So to make the tags, I use watercolor paper. These are scraps of watercolor paper and this punch from Stampin' Up. This piece of paper measures 2 inches by 4.5 inches. I place the paper in the punch like so, and that's how I get beautiful tags in seconds. And then I enjoy watercoloring. In case you were wondering, I used this stamp here from another thank you stamp set by Stampin' Up. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video and do not forget to subscribe to my channel, visit my blog for more ideas and inspiration, or to order Stampin' Up products anytime. Please find in the description of this video the links to go to the part 2 and the part 3 of this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching and happy crafting. Bye!